Friday, April 19, 2024. Up this morning at the usual time. I made my breakfast. I was down to my last 6 hard-boiled eggs. That meant they would be gone the day after tomorrow. I started thinking about the dinner party with Phil and Gail last night, and the question of food and water. It was a very big question. It was the question. I wasn't too concerned about water. It was abundant. Most of the houses on my street had a pool, and I assumed most people had bleach or fuel to boil water. No one was going to die of thirst, yet. Food was altogether a different and separate issue, and obviously a critical one. Either you had it or you didn't. If you didn't, watch out. Hunger can turn a person from a kind, loving, trusted friend, or yourself, into a murderer to get food. I decided to do a calorie and protein-based inventory. I poured a cup of fresh coffee, grabbed a pad and pencil, and got to work. One can't live on just carbs, which is energy, because your body will start to raid muscle and organs, even the brain, for protein to keep your chemistry in balance. After this review, I knew I had a good assortment of both carbs and protein. White rice, dry pasta, white flour, protein powder, powdered eggs, dry pinto beans, honey, peanut butter, assorted canned goods, dried meats, fruits, and soups. Based on anticipated calorie burn, I revised my supply upward from 10 to 14 weeks. I retrieved the radio and listened to the BBC. The news was extremely bad. China had imprisoned the American ambassador and the rest of the embassy diplomatic personnel. The Marine Guards had been executed. Korea had massed troops on the border with South Korea, and there had been some artillery shelling of Seoul. The American Navy had blockaded North Korea and sunk 4 outbound North Korean Ghost Fleet freighters that refused to stop and be boarded. I put the radio back. I was numb and felt outside of myself. I needed to take my mind off these events. I thought about venturing out into the neighborhood and engage folks. Would they think I'm nosy? I didn't want to freak anybody out, but decided to keep my face mask with me. I decided to walk down the block to the Goldsteins and check inside the house. The street was quiet, and I saw no one. I unlocked and opened the front door. "Hello," I called. There was no answer. The air felt thick and heavy. There was the smell of decay. I put on my mask. It offered some relief from the stench. I checked the entire house. It was empty. I went into the kitchen and knew the smell was coming from the refrigerator and freezer. I decided not to open them and just leave them closed. I then checked the pantry. There was a varied supply of canned and dried foods, cereals, meats, vegetables, crackers, snacks, mixes, and even some dry milk. There was beer, sodas, wine, and liquor in the bar. I thought about what to do with this food. Take it for myself or share it with others. But which others? Alice, Phil, and Gail? Everyone on the street? The people Alice said were still on the street were maybe 6 to 8 households. I decided to share it with everyone and delay the inevitable. I counted 93 food items to distribute equally per each house. Most homes had 1 or 2 people, and 2 unknown. That averaged 13 items per household. I got a kid's radio flyer wagon from the garage and filled it up. My first stop was Alice, then Phil and Gail, then me. I went to 2 more houses and knocked. One answered, the female couple. I told them who I was, said I was sharing this food, and they could take 13 items for the house. I also told them about using their hot water heater and pool. Both of them were pleasant, though stressed, and appreciative of the food and information, and thanked me. The next house was Schmidt. They both answered the door. "What do you want?" he asked abruptly. I started to tell him about the food distribution, but he immediately interrupted me and sharply accused me of not needing this food because I probably had a lot, and that I had probably also cherry-picked it before I came by. He looked at me with contempt. "Just leave it all here," he said, raising his shirt to show me a pistol in his belt. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I backed up as he stepped out between me and the wagon. "Get off of my property and my street," he ordered. "Watch out for this one," my danger control center blared. My hands went up head high. Okay, I said, and backed up. His wife started to take the food from the wagon. I turned and walked away. Maybe this had been a stupid idea after all. I decided to get off the street, out of sight and out of mind. I was fuming from the encounter, and it took a little while to normalize. Stay completely away from Schmidt, I told myself, and watch him like a hawk from now on. I noticed there had been no airplane contrails today. The friendly skies were empty. I saw Franklin soaring in the sky today, but I never fed him. The sunset lit the sky on fire and was exceptional. Back in the day, my dad shot hundreds of Kodachrome 35mm slides of sunsets on Lake Michigan. There were always slide shows in the cold, gray, dead winter nights of those flaming summer sunsets. I had a hobby of shooting smartphone time-lapse sunsets. I must have gotten that from him, too. I was enjoying watching the darkening sky when all of a sudden the valley started to light up. Section by section, whole areas came back to life. I was startled. I think I yelled, "Wow!" Everything was returning to normal. Thank God. I stood up, went into the house, and flipped a switch. Light. I flipped it on and off several times, just to be sure. The refrigerator was humming, and the clocks were blinking. I picked up my phone to call the kids. All circuits were busy. I turned on the TV. There was no programming, just a FEMA logo on the channels that were on. There was no water or gas yet. I went back outside and looked at the illuminated valley. What an amazing sight. Very beautiful, actually. The universe was gone. Its stars had fallen to earth, and the valley was covered with them. I sat there for about half an hour, looking at the lights while trying to phone every few minutes. All of a sudden, my phone rang. "Hello?" I heard, "Dad," then nothing. "Hello? Hello?" The call had been from Brian. I started to call Brian back, but my smartphone was dead. Dead? Why? I just charged it using the AA battery-powered charger. Then it hit me. It was deathly quiet. No sirens, only crickets and dogs. Then as quick as they came on, the lights were out again. What the hell? My mind turned to trying to assign a plausible explanation. I had an immediate suspicion as to the cause, and there was only one way to be sure: test my fears. All the power was out again, and my phone was dead. Next, my radio and two-way wrapped up in foil in the microwave worked okay. I had one last test to determine what happened. I went to my car and pushed the start button. Nothing. I tried again. Nothing. Not even a light. My heart sank. I knew right then and there what had just happened. Okay, this was the game changer. I could only conclude that the rumors and news of a computer attack were right, and whatever brought down the grid had been fixed, and whoever was behind the first attack was behind a second attack. This attack, an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, had been a huge surge of energy caused by nuclear explosions many miles above America that had fried all of the electronics in the area, and let's face it, probably the entire nation. Unless shielded, an EMP destroys the vast majority of all electronics, and we were interconnected and relied on all things electronic. Nothing was going to work for months or years, maybe decades. Until then, it was pre-electronic America. It might as well be the Old West. Things were going to get really bad, really quick. The fit had hit the shan. Next would come WROL, a society without the rule of law, where only the strong and lucky survive. I thought if what would probably happen did, I would need to be lucky to survive going forward, if you wanted to call surviving in the coming hell lucky. This was it. Pivot to OODA Loop Act 2. I knew as hard as it was, I needed to get some sleep. I was going to be very busy, and this was the last night I might be able to get some rest. God bless and protect me and all those whom I love.